3, 2, 1. From Rapid City, South Dakota, and the Hard Rocker Podcast Network, focusing on stories on and off the playing surface. This is the Hard Rocker Huddle.
My name is Josh van Valkenburg-Gernert. Welcome to episode 32 of the Hard Rocker Huddle. Today I'm with head men's soccer coach Ryan Thompson. After week one, a couple games in St. Cloud this weekend. The result didn't go your way, but you seem pretty optimistic about how your guys played. Do you first just want to talk about kind of what happened on Friday?
Yeah, we came out firing out of the gate, and in the game sometimes it doesn't really go your way, but we, looking at the stats, we had the majority of the possession, we had more shots, we had less fouls, we did everything right minus 3 mistakes and obviously getting a red card, which meant we were a man down. So the 3 mistakes they scored off of, and unfortunately we didn't necessarily shoot the ball on target very well, and we were missing some final passes or making too many passes. But after the game, especially being a man down, going into halftime and coming out and switching into our emergency formation, I really thought that the guys, came together, worked for each other, really, just went out there and tried to prove a point. And that point was, even if we're going to lose this game, we're not going to make it easy for St. Cloud, right? We're not just going to roll over. We're going to go out and we're going to fight until the final whistle. And that's what we did. And, yes, disappointed in the loss overall, but very happy with the culture, very happy with the leadership, and really happy just to have the guys back out and getting them back on the field in a real game.
Sure, and you kind of mentioned some of that fight. That's something that maybe not specific years, but that hasn't always been there with this program. So how important is this? How important of a step is that to just have that fight, to battle for all 90 minutes?
Yeah, I think it's huge, and we saw it in the first 2 games last year, and even into game 3 and 4. And after that, it kind of dropped off, and we lost that edge and that grit. And last year we lost game 1, right? And then we came out in game 2, and we got the red card in game 2 last year, and battled for a tie. So, this year was almost a mirror image of last season, except for we didn't get the win, but then we got the tie. So it's, we're hopeful, and I'm very hopeful that these guys understand that what they did this weekend was a huge positive. And there's going to be games down the line that we're going to lose, and there's going to be games down the line that we win or we battle for a tie. But we have to keep that edge, and we have to keep that physicality and that grit and that never back down and never lay down type of mentality. So, the message in the locker room after game 1 was, hey, we have to go out there and we have to do what we did today again without the small mistakes. Luckily for us, those small mistakes were very fixable. A guy trips over himself. We leave a guy unmarked in the middle of the field. And then obviously just running out of legs in game 1, and that kind of led to goal number 3. So all those are really easy things to get past and to fix, and we were relatively happy that we battled as hard as we did after game 1.
Yeah, and game 2 you wound up making a goalkeeper change. Mm-hmm. Daniel Freitas, hopefully I'm saying his name right. Yeah. True freshman coming in. He played a really good game. How important, is that just for his confidence and, the overall, I guess, your confidence in him, too?
Yeah, I think it's huge for him. It's huge for us. It's huge for the team to understand that we have some depth at our goalkeeper position. Game 1, we had Cole Velasquez start, and Cole's a great goalkeeper. And he did his job, and getting scored on 3 times wasn't necessarily his fault. It's just kind of a breakdown. The thing that Daniel had that I think Cole didn't have was how aggressive he was coming off the line, and with St. Cloud they play very direct over the top, and they have a fast forward, and they just let those guys just run and run and run. And so we were caught a little bit in game 1 where our center backs are tracking back and our goalkeeper's not necessarily coming out. So we had to go with some kind of speed in the back, and Daniel has a little bit more speed with his feet than Cole does. So it seemed like a pretty easy switch to make. And I know that goalkeeper core is very competitive with each other, and they're all friends, but they want to have that edge on each other and they want to play. But in big games like that, we just have to kind of pick and choose what we think is right. And after game one, you learn a lot about the team that you're facing going into game two. And so we just had to make a switch, and Daniel played out of his mind and had a shutout for 70 minutes. And he's not the only one that we had to switch up. We had Jeff Wacker was out with an injury. Jesse Corneliuson was out with a suspension. So we drop in Elias Bergfeld, who was our starting midfielder, captain of the team, into center back, which is something that he hasn't played since last year. We bring on Alex Croson, who's tall, fast, hasn't necessarily gotten the minutes quite yet. And those guys had to battle for 90 minutes, and they did, and they held St. Cloud to where they were, and they were running them down, and they were athletic, and they were physical, and we just had to come up with a makeshift roster for the injuries and the suspension, and we were happy with what we saw, and now we go back to the drawing board for Dakota Wesleyan, and see who makes that trip and who's going to start.
Yeah, one thing that you alluded to that was very noticeable just in the first two games is the improved physicality from the overall roster just compared to last year. There were some games where they just weren't physical.
Right.
And it was very obvious, at least in game two, that they were not going to be bullied. They were not going to be... So how important is that to be able to sustain that and just have guys that can physically, match up with whoever you're taking on?
It's big. I mean, even, we have some shorter guys on the team. Some are stocky, some are skinny, some guys are huge. And I think, we came out in game one and we got punched right in the face. And it was like, okay, this is how it's going to be now. We know that St. Cloud is going to be a physical, fast team. And, we have to stick up for ourselves. We have to stick up for our teammates. And, the referee group was letting a lot go throughout the whole weekend. There was, some pretty shaky calls on both sides where, us coaches on either side of the bench were like, wow, I can't believe they just let that go and that this game is as open as it is. So, going into game two after kind of getting punched a little bit in game one, we had to go out and say, all right, we're just going to throw our bodies into everything. And we did that a lot better. And, before the game, we could tell before game two, the guys were really hungry. And, it was kind of like a group of sharks that are hungry, and like going out and there's chum in the water and we have to go out and attack them and we have to kind of hit them back from game one. And we did that, and we played a better possession game. We played a better physical game. We played a better overall strategic game in game two than we did in game one, and I think even better than they did in game one and game two. So, we came out firing. We scored first, and it's just unfortunate that, with the injuries and the suspension, we just didn't quite have the legs to get through that whole 90 minutes, but we made it 89 minutes. So it was good to see, and that physicality played a huge factor in this weekend. And now some of those guys know what it's like to play in college soccer, and they know that they have to throw their weight around.
Yeah, and kind of along those same lines, game two, it was a battle. Mm-hmm. Midfield was a battle. Every long ball was a battle. Even the goal, it was kind of a long ball that got batted around and just wound up. You won the battle, and it wound up in Ransom's feet, and he connected on it. How much confidence, just does that give you to just, kind of get your first goal of the season, confidence-wise? What does that do for Ransom? What does that do for the rest of, the forwards? Just to see a ball get to the back of the net. Yeah,
I think as a team, it's big because it kind of proves that when we stick to our game plan, we can get in front of goal and we can score goals, right? When we, go off the books and we play different, or guys take it upon themselves to try and be miracle workers, right? It doesn't necessarily work, and we stuck to the game plan, and we were grinding it out, and we played a dangerous ball in the box that they couldn't handle, and it was a little messy, but we're kind of a messy goal scoring team, right? You look back to last year against St. Cloud, George Martinez's first goal of the season is he's jumping in 2 feet up, and there's multiple guys in, and he kind of slides into the goal, and there's a huge ruckus inside the actual goal, and it's just a messy goal, right? But it counts. It counts the same as if you hit an absolute banging shot from 20 yards out, right? So I think it just proves that the plan is working, and even the opportunities that we got in game one, it proved that we are moving the ball well enough to score, right? We're just missing little bits here and there, and making some of the wrong decisions, whether to pass the ball or not pass the ball, and shoot or not shoot. So it was huge to see that first goal go in the season, and I mean, we erupted on the sideline, and it was just big for us.
Yeah, and last year there was so much of George.
Mm-hmm.
Like this year, at least in those first 2 games, it seemed like there was a little bit more of a balanced attack going forward in terms of who's getting those shots and who's going to be able to get those goals.
Right.
How big is that too? Just to be able to, then people can't key on George so much like they started to do towards like mid-season last year.
Yeah, we coming into the season understand that people are going to they're aware of who George is, right? And they know what he has done in the past, and how many goals he's scored, and kind of the player that he is. So, if I'm playing against George, my game plan is to shut him down, because I know that he's a playmaker and that he's a goal scorer. For us, it's, can we even that out a little bit? Yes, George is still dangerous, but what about the other side, right? Can we get balls down the other side? Can we cross in? Can people, can we make them kind of forget about George until it actually, comes down to him standing there at the top of the box with the ball? And also, can we get our midfield into the play, our center mids? They're all great players. They're all goal scorers. Can we get them high enough up the field to put the ball in the back of the net? In previous years, we have really sucked back defensively. And so when we were on our attack, it was 3 guys versus 8, where we're trying to even that out a little bit and play a little bit higher line, especially with speed in the back. And so, yeah, we want to be a well-rounded team. We don't want to be we're always going to go down the same sideline, and because good teams pick up on that. Colorado Mines or a Mesa or a Pueblo, they're going to pick up on that real quick. So how can we adjust to playing both sides of the field, or playing down the middle and find the back of the net?
Sure, and then obviously you kind of already talked about just the way your freshmen stepped up a little bit. In game 2, they were great for 75 minutes, 80 minutes until 1 lapse.
Yep.
How do you kind of reinforce to your guys that even though you didn't get the win, how do you reinforce that, hey, you guys played really well, just keep it going. It doesn't matter that you didn't get the win this game.
Yeah, I think it's all about the message from the coaching staff. We went into that locker room after game 2, and there were some heads down, but there were some guys that were like, hey, we did what we did here, and it was a good result. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting a tie on the road, especially on a long road trip. And our captains really stepped up, and I talked to him coming into the locker room. We got to keep everyone's heads up here, because we played a really good game against a pretty good team, right? A very athletic St. Cloud team, a very fast, physical St. Cloud team, and we stuck in there, and we yes, we want to win. We want to win every game that we play. But coming out with a draw and getting our first point of the season, it's a positive. It's looking up, and the guys that we have, a Jacob Miklas, who freshman defender, he played 70 minutes in game 1 and then 90 minutes in game 2, right? And really is cementing a position. And so it's rallying around those guys that are young, that are getting the job done, and rallying around our leadership, who, Hayden played 90 minutes in almost both games, right? And he was exhausted, he's sweating, he's, but we just had to keep rallying around those guys, and those guys had to keep stepping up in big situations. And we can't let our heads drop. We have to just keep moving forward. That's, keep the train moving forward. Keep swarming people like we're sharks and there's chum in the water, and that's kind of the motto of just like, we have to go take games. People aren't going to give them to us just because we've been bad for 10 years. You have to go out and you have to earn that respect, and you have to go out, and sometimes it's stealing wins, sometimes it's stealing ties, sometimes it's just being the better team, and even if you lose, saying, hey, we're going to come back next game and be better.
And to me, at least, you really were the better team in Game 2. I mean, you were more physical. You won the possession battle for the most part. It just won 30-second lapse in a counterattack. They found the right guy and scored. That's soccer, right?
Yeah,
it happens.
It's the game. And, I mean, we have to stick to what we're doing because what we're doing is going to work, and it's going to pay off, and we're going to be a team that people are going to say, oh, we can't just play our reserve guys against them anymore. We can't just expect that we're going to win. I think Game 1 proved that we're going to fight until the final whistle, whether we're winning or losing. Game 2, the same. If, you knock out half of our team, we're still coming back with what we have, and we're going to continue to fight for a win.
And what do you have to do? Obviously this weekend you got Dakota Wesleyan and then Lubbock Christian.
Yep.
What do you kind of have to do to, get across that finish line, pick up a win or two?
Yeah, first of all, we have to see who can play and who can't, right? You always pick up injuries, and unfortunately we suffered quite a few leading into week 1 and then after week 1. So we just have to put together a good team that's going to go out there and take it to Dakota Wesleyan, a team that, we have seen how they stack up in the NAIA, but how are they going to come out against a D2 team, right? And you never know what to expect. So, we really just have to go out and play our game and shoot the ball, put them in the back of the net, and then, play really good defensively and continue to work the ball up the field.
Sure. Is there anything you've seen on film from either of those two teams that, going in, we got to be able to do this really well?
Yeah, I think going into Dakota Wesleyan, I haven't really tuned into Lubbock Christian yet, just because I'm focused on Dakota Wesleyan right now. And going into that game, I think we need to find our forwards' feet, and I think we need to play a little bit quicker through the midfield. They seem like they collapse pretty well. So can we, 1-2 touch in the midfield, and then can we find our outside mids, and then can we find our target forward and just kind of build off of that? Dakota Wesleyan, I don't want to give up too much, but they do have a lot of space between their lines, and I think that's a area that we can exploit and really find that space on the field to work with.
Sure. That pretty much wraps us up for today. Good luck Thursday. Good
Thank
luck
you.
Saturday as well.
Yeah,
Hopefully when we talk to you at the coaches show next week, you'll be the all-time wins holder.
I really hope to get past that record and kind of get it off all the articles and move on from it. So it's been a long time coming.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Hard Rocker Huddle with host Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert. Follow on Apple and Spotify.